Hello, SYNGAP Land. My name is Michael Graglia, and this is episode 172 of SYNGAP 10, the SYNGAP 1 podcast. It's been a few weeks since I've talked to you because there's been conferences going on and news hitting us and work being done that has completely consumed me. But there's so many announcements to make that I had to stop the trains a little bit and just get this episode out. Also, we have a board meeting later today, and I like to get these out before the board so we can cover the basics. The biggest news that many of you have already heard about and messaged me on is that CAMP4 Therapeutics presented their data yesterday, 2 days ago, Friday, at ASGCT, the American Society for Cell and Gene Therapy. This is a very big meeting, and I'm very happy to tell you that SRF was represented by Dr. Catherine Helde, a mother of a Syngapian and the CSO of SRF, at this meeting, which was very exciting. So you've probably heard a lot about CAMP4 lately. I share in the show notes their press release, a talk by Dr. Yuri, who is their CMO that he gave at World Orphan Drug Congress, which I was at with him, 3 weeks ago. I've lost track. I share the link to the slides that they shared at ASGCT on Friday. You want to look at those slides. And then I also share a link to a Facebook post where Dr. Yuri presented at GETA. For those of you who are new to the SYNGAP scene, SRF Australia is a very motivated organization, and they are part of GETA. Australians love their acronyms. And GETA is Genetic Epilepsy Therapy Association. Probably got that wrong, but it's directionally correct. Anyway, important point, CAMP4, which is based in Boston, decided to fly to Australia to present to the Australian SYNGAP community. I wonder why. I don't know. But let's talk about these slides because they are really important and really exciting. And if anything, you know, you hear me say a lot, ASO's around the corner, we could be a year away. Progress is happening. And why would you believe me? Well, here's why you should believe me. This is as good as it gets, guys. So if you click on that link, you're going to go to their presentation page. And if you and the second link there is targeting regulatory RNAs with antisense oligonucleotides for potential treatment of SYNGAP1 related disorders. First of all, good job CAMP4 using SYNGAP1 related disorders. That is the preferred vernacular to describe our disease. I've talked about this before. And then if you scroll through, slides 1 and 2 are title and disclosures. Slide 3 talks about what a regulatory RNA is. And basically, a regulatory RNA is think of it as the scientists are gonna hate this, but think of it as the control box for the gene. Hey gene, wake up and do your work. That's what it does, right? And then the regulatory RNA, if we can manage that, we can manage the gene. So instead of getting into the gene and dealing with the mechanics of the gene, what they're doing is they found the regulator of the gene and they said we're gonna deal with that. Slide 4 talks about what is SYNGAP1. Very, very good stuff. I will point out the most important number on there. They estimate there are 10,000 SYNGAP patients in the United States of America. We at SRF have identified about 500. If you go into the claims database, you'll find about 1,000. And those 1,000 and our 500, the overlap is not perfect because they are on average much older than our population. So we know that there's, at least 1,000 that have been identified, but it tells us that for every Syngapian we know, there's 9 who haven't been diagnosed yet or we haven't found yet. That's an important number if this 10,000 number is correct. And if anything, I think it's conservative. Slide 5 talks about their asset and the goal. Their asset is called CMP SYNGAP01. These names are not very creative. But basically they're saying, the goal of this is to make SYNGAP expression go up, right? SYNGAP6 tells you that they have found the reg RNA for SYNGAP and they've worked with iPSC neurons. I will point out those iPSC neurons were provided by yours truly, SRF, to the CAMP4 team after a meeting in Nashville 2 or 3 years ago. So this science we're doing, these iPSCs that we're working on, guys, this stuff has really helped CAMP4 move faster. I'm comfortable saying that. So slide 6 just talks about, hey, we found the regulatory regions for SYNGAP. Slide 7 says we we screened a lot of compounds to do this. So once they found that compound, they went through and they said, let's find an ASO to go through and really figure out how to make that regulator work harder, how to switch that regulator from on to super on so that the genes it regulates work harder. And they did primary screens, and then they whittled it down, and then they did fine tuning to get their lead ASOs, of which this asset that is now called CMP SYNGAP 101 is that. Now, slide 8 is where I really get excited. I'm going with their slide numbering here. This shows that regulatory RNA was increased when this was introduced. Slide 9, you get to see familial control. So they're showing SYNGAP levels in iPSCs that were shared by SRF. And you see the familial control on the left. So this would be the same sex, mother, brother, sister, whatever. I don't know which patient line they used here. And then in the next one, you see the SYNGAP levels in the patient, and they were 50%. And then in the next one, so the familial control was in orange, the patient was in gray. I'm on slide 9. And then in green, you see that as they gave a larger dose of CMP as SYNGAP 101 to the patient-derived cell lines, SYNGAP went up, baby. That is the dream. Because we believe, because the science tells us, it's not we believe. Let me not say that. There's too much believing going on around here. The science, the hard facts tell us that our patients have the symptoms they have because one of their copies of SYNGAP doesn't work, and as a result, they don't have enough SYNGAP. So what we want to do, and I'll get to that later, and what we want to do is make the good copy work harder, and that's exactly what CMP SYNGAP 101 will do. It'll make the good copy work harder, and that's what we see happening in iPSC lines in the green. Very exciting on slide 9. Cell lines, check. Slide 10, they did it to mice. So they took homozygous mouse, which means a regular mouse, normal mouse, healthy mouse, looked at SYNGAP levels. And when I say looked at SYNGAP levels, kill the mouse, cut his brain open, throw the brain in a machine, measure SYNGAP levels, right? This is real work. SYNGAP levels 1. And then they looked at a humanized het. 2 things were done to this mouse. First of all, we replaced the SYNGAP gene, the mouse SYNGAP gene, with the human SYNGAP gene. And that was work funded by Dr. Ben Prosser at CHOP. But I remember those meetings very well. We were in long conversations with Dr. Prosser about that. And we're grateful to CHOP for doing that. So I remember that mouse being created. So we take the humanized gene and then we make it a het. So instead of having 2 good copies in that mouse, we took away, through breeding, one of the copies. So you have a het, meaning heterogeneous or one copy, and it's humanized. So there's a human gene in this little mouse. And the SYNGAP level in that mouse was 50% because it only had 1 gene, it's a het. And then they introduced CMP SYNGAP 01, and in a linear fashion, as the dose went up, you see SYNGAP levels go up in the mouse. So we got iPSC, check, mouse, check. Hey, this thing might work. And then slide 11, they talk about, they dosed the mouse at day 5, day 2, day 5. They gave the mice a bunch of tests, and then at day 27, they analyzed the brain, which is a nice way of saying. Slide 12, you can see that for motor function, cognition and memory, hyperactivity and anxiety, the mouse's performance was rescued by this gene, by this medicine. So they gave the medicine to the SYNGAP mouse. Motor function went back to wild type levels. Cognition and memory went up to wild type levels. In fact, the way I'm reading this chart, it was a little higher, which is interesting. But there's a margin of error that's whatever. You can't say that. And then hyperactivity and anxiety went down. Who would like their SYNGAPian to have better motor function, better cognition, and less hyperactivity and anxiety? Right here. How did they measure these things? There are different tests to measure this stuff in mice. Look at the slide 12. It gets better. iPSCs, mice. Most work stops there. The first 2 words on slide 13 are non-human primate, aka monkeys, to be very broad. So we now have taken CMP SYNGAP 01 and put it into monkeys to do PKPD. PKPD is pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics. What on earth does that mean? It's basically studying what the drug does to the body and what the body does to the drug. What the drug does to the body, what the body does to the drug, PKPD. If you hear PKPD and pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, don't even go there. It's what the body does to the drug and what the drug does to the body. And the body and the animals that we can work on that are most like us are monkeys. So we do this to monkeys. And they gave, they had 4 groups, a baseline group, and then a group that got, or basically a placebo group, and then a group that got low, medium, and high amounts of SYNGAP. And there were 4 animals in each group. So 16 monkeys did this. They gave intrathecal administration, which means they stuck a needle in the spinal column, not in the spine, in the spinal column. So as a reminder, we do not want to just take this stuff in, by blood or by mouth, because it would have to go through our whole digestive system or go through our whole blood system, and it would hit the liver. We want to get this to the brain as fast as possible. The way to get this to the brain as fast as possible is to shoot it into the central nervous system, either into the spinal column, intrathecal, or there's ICM too, but we're not doing that right now. So ASOs generally go IT. ASOs for Angelman have been delivered IT, for Dravet, for SMA, kind of SMA, I guess you could say that. Yeah. So for SMA, for Angelman, for Dravet, for Rett, we always deliver ASOs IT. Okay, great. We've done this, and they did this to monkeys, right? And they show us when they dosed them, when they took PK readings, and then at day 43 they analyzed the brains. And what you see in this chart is that the amount of SYNGAP medicine that was given and then found in each of these different brain regions. And in a linear fashion, as they gave low, medium, and high, they found more and more of this medicine in the different brain regions. And that is exactly what you want. Because what we know now is that this medicine, when delivered IT, gets to the brain regions, especially the brain regions primarily involved, according to them, in SYNGAP1 related disorders. And you can see on slide 15, actual analysis of the brains of the monkeys, showing that it's in the frontal cortex, which affects intellectual disability, the hippocampus, which affects learning and memory, the occipital cortex, which is where we're getting our EEGs from, and the motor cortex, which obviously affects motor function. And you can see beautifully here that as the dose went up, you saw more of the medicine in these areas. And that is incredibly exciting. So we aren't just hearing from CAMP4, hey, we've got another way to treat SYNGAP1, because we got a lot of companies that say, hey, we have a way to treat SYNGAP1. We have a company that's put their money where their mouth is and has done cells, mice, and monkeys. And then the bottom of slide 16, it gets even more excited. GLP tox studies to initiate in 2025. When's 2025? Right now. We are in 2025. So what they're saying here is this year in 2025, they're going to initiate GLP tox, which would mean more monkey studies. These are very long. The study itself is about 3 months. They put dose in them. They put medicine in the monkeys. And they crank it up and up and up, and they see what happens to the monkeys. And then they get a ton of data, like a ton of data. They have to dissect the monkeys and take all the brain parts and do the things, and then they got to analyze that data and present it to the FDA. Why is this exciting? Because once that data is presented to the FDA, that is the last checkbox before they can do a clinical trial, assuming they have managed to design a clinical trial, which we are talking to them about. So, and that 3-month monkey study takes about a year, because 3 months in monkeys, we got to prep it, you got to hire it, 3 months in monkeys, 3 months data creation and all the work, and then analysis and then reporting. So it's about a year of work. But this is where we could be in humans at the end of next year. We could be in humans at the end of next year with this medicine. So if you're a prayer, keep CAMP4 in your prayers, because they are doing incredible work. And that is an amazing presentation, which I just walked you through. So please go and look at that presentation with this podcast and go slide by slide and stop and appreciate that never before this presentation on Friday, May 16th, had we seen public presentation of an ASO to upregulate SYNGAP in non-human primates. And the other point I will make is these monkeys were not SYNGAP monkeys. We don't have SYNGAP monkeys. That would be a terrible idea, by the way. Giving a monkey SYNGAP, I mean, monkeys are cheeky enough as it is, right? Can you imagine a monkey with SYNGAP? This is hopefully we never have to do this. They gave healthy monkeys this medicine. The monkeys did fine for 43 days. Then we had to analyze their brains. But by the way, this medicine does what? It makes SYNGAP go up. Now, the official tox studies are coming. But the reality is we have given this medicine to monkeys, and guess what happened to the monkeys? Nothing. So all these people freaking out about, oh, we have to be careful upregulating SYNGAP because what if it goes over 100%? Somebody could die. Monkeys didn't die. I'm just saying it. I'm just putting it out there. We have upregulated SYNGAP in monkeys. Nobody died. So let's stop freaking out about the 100% and let's get above 50 people. And this is, I want to make another point on this because this is super, super important. We have 3 data points. 100% of SYNGAP, which is normal people, you and me, if you consider me normal, have a functional brain. Kids with 50% SYNGAP, most of our patients, have disease. Animals with 0 SYNGAP, when you breed 2 hets, some of the kids have 0 SYNGAP, die shortly after birth. That's 3 points for a line, folks. The mathematicians are like, well, it's 2 points for a line. Yeah, but 3 is even better. And what this tells us is that if we just get a little bit above 50, we can expect to see improvement. And so we don't even have to get to 100. This is now, we're getting into inside baseball. I'm getting ahead of things, but super exciting. We are this close to upregulating SYNGAP in humans. We just need a year of GLP tox work, which hopefully CAMP4 has started or is starting. Right? This is a terrible time for biotech. They probably have to raise a lot of money. These studies are not cheap, but hopefully this data will help them secure that funding and get to work. Okay, so let's talk about what we can do to help this. Do we just now have to sit on the sidelines, eat our popcorn, and chill? Absolutely not, right? What will be critical for getting this into humans is FDA approval. What will be critical for FDA approval is strong and robust natural history study data. SRF has signed a contract with Stanford. We have already launched a site with Colorado Children's, and we have an active site at CHOP. So if your patient has not been to Stanford, Colorado Children's, or CHOP to be involved in the PROMMIS Natural History Study supported by both a donor at CHOP and the SYNGAP Research Fund, get yourself over there. Not only is it better for your patient to see SYNGAP experts, but that data is available to companies like CAMP4 and others to help improve their clinical trial design and secure FDA approval. So we all owe it to ourselves, to our children, and to all the kids out there, the other 9,000 kids in America who haven't been diagnosed yet, to contribute to this natural history study and help CAMP4 happen. Because here's the exciting thought. We're about to have a clinical trial for SYNGAP1, maybe as soon as a year. Here's the terrifying thought. As soon as we fail to recruit for a trial for SYNGAP1, that will be the last trial for SYNGAP1. There's a lot of genes out there, guys. There's a lot of people begging companies to work on their gene. And I'm telling you right now, we have to be ready. We have to help these trials get designed. We have to make sure the data is in place. And when it's time, we should all be jumping out of our seats if we qualify, because there will be age restrictions and mutation restrictions, all the different restrictions. Make sure you know your mutation. And make sure you know your mutation and make sure you understand your mutation. Separate conversation. But essentially, when trials happen, it's already happened with various drug trials. People have called me, Mike, should I do this? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I always say the same thing. Absolutely do the trial. If there is a trial in front of you, jump, go, and go hard and go now. Because you never know when opportunity is going to knock again. But we as a community need to fill every trial every time so that other companies feel comfortable doing more trials and working to find better and better medicines for SYNGAP1. And the way you get ready for a trial right now is you make sure you're enrolled in a natural history site, Stanford CHOP or Colorado Children's, and all your data is available for retrospective analysis in Citizen. Remember, Citizen is our natural history platform that collects all your medical records, manages that data, and if biopharma companies want it, they can license it. We have 267 people in the United States right now enrolled in Citizen. I don't understand why that number's not I don't understand why that number's not 400. Well, there's a few people who are like, no. But most of you have seen fit to benefit from that free service and to sign up for Citizen. Please sign up for Citizen. It takes 5 minutes. Let's keep talking. There's a lot going on. CAMP4 is, I think, let me not say it like that. CAMP4 might be in the lead. You never know. There's a lot of companies out there working on us who don't even tell us what they're doing. CAMP4 might be in the lead, but there are other people working on it. So there's an incredible article out from Johns Hopkins University, which is both, I share links both for Facebook and LinkedIn. And guys, when you find our content, reshare our content. comment on the content, like the content. You've got to do that so other people see the content. Remember, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people out there with SYNGAP who haven't yet connected with SRF. We need to connect with them the way everybody's on social. So share our content, comment on it. Even if you can't think of anything interesting to say, this is so exciting, share. That's fine. But amplify that content. Anyway, great article from Johns Hopkins, Facebook and LinkedIn. I share the link in the show notes. And it's about Professor Huganier talking about the NIH cuts. I'm mentioned in there. They interviewed me. There's a link to my Newsweek article. The work of Professor Collar is in there as well, and Dr. Connie Smith-Hicks, who's a clinician at Hopkins, who we love working with. This is a great article, and basically what it's saying is the cuts to the NIH are really limiting Professor Huganier's ability to work on SYNGAP, and Professor Huganier is working on an ASO in partnership with the company, by the way, to work on another ASO. And Professor Huganier found the gene in 1998. The dude knows a lot about SYNGAP1. And by the way, the first grant SRF, Ashley and I ever gave was to Professor Huganier to start working on an ASO, by the way. So, sometimes it takes years for this work for these seeds to sprout, but they do sprout. So, Mike, if we have CAMP4, do we need Professor Huganier? Absolutely. We don't know what's going to work. We don't know what's going to work best. We don't know how much we're going to learn in the process. Competition is good for the patient. Competition is good for the patient. So we want Professor Huganier to be working on it. We want CAMP4 to be working on it. We want Praxis and Stoke and everybody else who's publicly working on it to be working on it. Professor, he's not a professor yet. He probably should be. But Dr. Prosser at Penn working on it. These guys are all doing amazing, amazing work. And we desperately need/want more medicines for SYNGAP1. And that's why I work the way I do, as does Catherine and Virginie and Lauren, day in and day out, and our dozen board members and our 100 volunteers. This is why we all do what we do, guys, because we need better medicines for SYNGAP, and we need it now. Just to wrap up on ASGCT, there were two other mentions of SYNGAP at ASGCT, which were super exciting. SRF has sponsored the creation of a patient-derived mouse. This is our second mouse that we've worked on. It's a Q504X. Might be a 503X. I got to look that up. Whatever. It's a mouse based on a patient. Dr. Matt Simon from the JAX, who we've been working with closely, presented a beautiful poster there. We need to put together a blog and share that poster. But punchline is another asset for SYNGAP analysis. These mice are very helpful. And we did this specifically because a Q-stop mutation is one that certain medicines can be tested on. And so we made this mouse for that purpose, and hopefully that company will use that mouse. But we put it in the JAX. These mice, guys, always, they aren't cheap, guys. If anyone ever says, hey, you want to make a mouse? I'll get a screaming deal for you, $40,000. Sounds doable. We did this. The 40 grand is just the cover charge. Once you get into the bar, you then have to characterize the mouse, right? Once you make the mouse for 40 grand, you have to characterize the mouse, and that is not cheap. I think we invested almost 200 grand with the JAX to characterize this mouse, which is all the data you see on that poster, so other people can work with the mouse and figure out what a better mouse looks like. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. Lots going on with ASGCT. So thank you, Dr. Simon, for that. It's great work. And if you're curious, Dr. Simon also presented at our conference. The video is, I'll add it to the show notes. The video is on our conference video page too. And then super exciting, surprise, Dr. Megan Quinlan, I hope I'm saying that right, Dr. Quinlan, from the Allen Institute, which is a great institute in Seattle, presented her work on SYNGAP1 using AAV. We had no idea Dr. Quinlan was working on SYNGAP1, and it's really exciting that she shared that data. Now, I don't know where that work's gone, and it was in mice, and so Dr. Helde, our CSO, is talking to Dr. Quinlan, and we're seeing what data we can gather from that and what we can continue to learn from her experiments. But how exciting, A, that there's a whole person doing significant amount of work such that they got a talk at ASGCT on SYNGAP. We didn't even know they existed. And how exciting, B, that Dr. Helde was at ASGCT, and as soon as we heard about this talk, she stalked Dr. Quinlan, and they chatted and had dinner or lunch or something. Amazing. Thank you, Catherine, for your hard work, taking a week away from your family to do that. Thank you, Dr. Quinlan, for caring about SYNGAP1. Now, enough about ASGCT. Let's talk about this wonderful little boy at Penn who got treated, who got treated with CRISPR 2.0. How incredible is this story? So KJ Muldoon was born August 2024, and they diagnosed him at CHOP with this terrible disease. And in record time, they used CRISPR 2.0, which is base editing, to go in and fix this little kid. And as a result, instead of having this disease where he's going to have too much ammonia and get very sick and maybe die, I haven't studied this one close enough to be exactly sure what would happen, but it would have been bad. Teams across UCSF and Penn and CHOP worked together tirelessly and made a medicine for this kid, and the kid's going to be okay. And I share a link in the show notes, a GIF link to the New York Times article about this, a PBS special about this, and a Substack by Eric Topol. Eric Topol is like a brilliant scientist who actually speaks English. So read any of those if you want to learn more about this. A lot of people have shared this and sent it to me and been like, Mike, why can't we do this? Well, first of all, pretty sure the kid was dying. And all these universities worked like midnight, like vats of midnight oil is the quote I remember from Professor Ernov, who's one of the bigwigs at at Berkeley, who worked on this. Like vats, like a lot of people burned the midnight oil for this. And second of all, historically, the answer on CRISPR has been, and this is important if you wake up for this part. Historically, the answer for CRISPR has been you're making CRISPR for a specific mutation, right? So the 450 patients we have in the U.S., some number, because some patients have the same mutation. Some kids have, we have 5 kids with the same mutation. We have 10 kids with the same mutation. But a lot of people just say have the mutation. So let's, for ease of math, say for those 450 patients I have in the U.S., I have 300 different mutations. Under CRISPR 1.0, that would have meant we would have to make 300 different medicines to go and fix C3583 G to T minus 9, to go fix 490 C to T, to go fix 333 del, whatever. Like, that's a lot of medicines. That's too much work. Now, with CRISPR 2.0, the regulatory environment is changing a little bit. And I was at Milken a couple weeks ago, and I had the privilege of talking to Professor Ernov, this guy from Berkeley, who's pretty brilliant, but he's passionate. And I was talking to him, I was explaining to him SYNGAP, and what he said is, the regs are changing, Mike, and what we could do now with CRISPR 2.0 is for the first mutation, we have to make a full medicine, right? So we have to do a mouse model, we have to do a cell model, we have to do all the work, all the regulatory, make medicine 1. For the next medicine, we can do just a mouse model. Or maybe it's mouse and cell. I don't remember. For the next medicine, we can do just a cell line. And then after that, just cell line, cell line, cell line. So CRISPR 2.0 is getting much closer to be done at scale. And of course, I send Professor Ernov an email now every week being like, hey, CRISPR 2 SYNGAP, here's all our assets, here's all our mice and our cell lines, please, please, please. And I'm hopeful that eventually he'll cave and reply. But that's what's going on. Super exciting that CRISPR 2.0 was used on this kid. Such a great, and I must point out, happened at Penn CHOP, where we have a strong SYNGAP base. So there's hope here, guys. But I just want to acknowledge that I've heard this story. It's not a perfect fit for us. And frankly, right now, all I want is a naked ASO to be delivered intrathecally to our kids so we can see what a better SYNGAPian looks like. Let me talk about that because that's really important. Before we get into fancy delivery mechanisms, AAV, liquid nanoparticles, exosomes, which I'm about to talk about, we just need to stick something into the brain of a SYNGAPian and make SYNGAP go up. And then we're going to know what it looks like when you take a 10-year-old little girl or a 5-year-old little boy or a 7-year-old little whatever, or a 20-year-old or a 69-year-old for that matter, and you increase SYNGAP expression at that point in life. We don't know that. The answer to that question is entirely theoretical. I think their motor function is going to improve. I think their words are going to improve. I think they're going to be like a hungover person coming out of a bar at 10 a.m. with a lot of bright light hitting them in the eyes. I think they're going to be like, what is going on? And once we get over that, I think we're going to start seeing what a partially healed SYNGAPian looks like. But we have to acknowledge that in the years of life until they were dosed with medicine, their brain was being built badly with not enough SYNGAP. So they're not going to just be normal, but they're going to be a lot better. Once we know what a lot better looks like and how to measure it, then we can get into all these fancy medicines. fancy delivery. Delivery is like how we're going to get it in. But right now, we basically just need to brute force it. We need to take a needle, stick it intrathecal, get it into the spinal column, get that medicine to the brain, have SYNGAP go up, and then finally understand that a Syngapian, an adult Syngapian human can be rescued. Because by the way, we've rescued mice. Gavin Rumbaugh has these cool mice where you can turn SYNGAP on later in life, and they did better on a lot of stuff. But mice and humans, different. Okay, so staying on topic here, Mike. We really, really want a naked ASO, an ASO that isn't packaged in anything more complicated to just be put into our kids so we can see what better looks like. We want that first clinical trial so that we can do a better job of designing the second, the third, the fourth, et cetera, et cetera. There's going to be an avalanche. Speaking of better delivery mechanisms, I want to congratulate Professors in Plenty at the University of Nebraska. University of Nebraska is a huge agriculture university, and Professors in Plenty is a giant in this space. He studies milk exosomes. He's presented, I think, at the past two of our meetings. We have funded him. He just won a big NIH gene editing challenge. And when you go to the link that I share on the University of Nebraska Lincoln website, you will see that it acknowledges that his work was supported by SYNGAP Research Fund and another patient advocacy group. I want to say Prader-Willi. I could be wrong about that. And I'm really proud of that because now he's gone on now. He's doing more work. He's gotten more funding out of the NIH in this incredibly competitive competition. So thank you very much, Professors in Plenty. This is a big deal. And that is the kind of exciting advanced delivery that, let's say what we all hope is true. The CAMP4 ASO goes into humans. We see remarkable improvement. We do a trial. It becomes a marketed drug. Then we say, okay, is there a better way? Can we improve the delivery? That's when we say, hey, CAMP4, meet Professors in Plenty. Maybe we can stick your ASO into his milk exosomes that are delivered nasally, intravenously. There's all kinds of cool delivery stuff going on. But it's kind of like, you put two technologies together and something goes right, yay! You put two technologies together, something goes wrong. Well, which was it? We don't know. So we need to start with just upregulating SYNGAP. Then we can get fancy. But your donations at work, guys. We have funded Professors in Plenty, I think, twice now. And he's gotten this other funding, and he's got SYNGAP assets in his lab. He knows what SYNGAP is. He knows us. He works with us. So now we're going to see, hopefully, inshallah, that his delivery mechanism could improve future trials. But for right now, go, CAMP4, Stoke and Praxis, catch up, guys. Let's get this done. Now, I also talked a little bit about repurposing in our private group. If you're not in our Facebook private group, links in the show notes. And I shared some specific mutations about a repurposing trial. There is a drug out there called Amlexanox. The company is called Fortuity Pharma. Website is out there. And what they have is a read-through drug for very specific stop mutations. They're almost all arginine, which is the R or the ARG. Don't worry about it. I listed 5 mutations in the Facebook group, and I said these are the ones that are most likely to benefit from this drug, Amlexanox. Amlexanox is a drug that has been used in Japan for asthma, of all things, for a long time, right? Very safe drug, been in a lot of humans. But what the team at Fortuity Pharma has done, led by a guy named Dr. Bruce Bloom, who's just brilliant and has been in the repurposing space for a long time, is they found that this drug can facilitate read-through. Now, what Fortuity can do is help you get connected with a supplier of this drug in the States. And if your clinician is interested in writing a script for this drug that is super safe and has been used in humans and can be used for asthma and weight loss, and try it in your kids. If your kids have one of these mutations, conceptually, you could read through the stop mutation and conceptually, that bad copy of SYNGAP would suddenly become a good copy. So if your patient has one of those mutations and your patient is 10 or older, because you don't want to put this in young kids for lots of reasons, we would be interested in working with some patients in Fortuity Pharma to see if this drug worked for a couple of reasons. A, we like to see suffering alleviated. We want to see Syngapians helped. We think this drug could help. B, see what I just said about what does a better Syngapian look like? The sooner we figure that out, the better. So for people who are like, what's going on with repurposing? That's why I put out that post. Company's called Fortuity Pharma. Let me know if your kid has that mutation and they're 10 or over, and if you think your clinician would be supportive of that. Speaking of repurposing, I want to remind everybody that SRF has been tirelessly working with other tireless PAGs, specifically STXBP1 and SLC6A1, with whom we did our conference last year, side by side. And we'll do it again this year, by the way, guys. We love SLC6A1. So we've been working closely with them on this drug called Ravicti, which is also known as sodium phenylbutyrate. Sodium phenylbutyrate, oh God, I'm not even going to go down this rabbit hole. Anyway, after begging and offering to fund and then having him get funding from back and forth, finally Dr. Greenspan secured both drug and support from then Horizon, now Amgen, to run a clinical trial on 10 of our kids. And so we very quickly got 10 of our kids enrolled. Dr. Greenspan has been working with them. A majority of those patients are still in the trial. Exact numbers escape me right now. But I can tell you already, it's not a secret. The people in that trial, it's open label trial, the people in that trial have seen significant seizure reduction. Significant seizure reduction. And those patients now are looking at the end of trial being in December, which is 7 short months away. And when trial ends, they are going to be, they need to get their insurance company to pay for this very expensive drug. And we are already working with SLC6A1 and Dr. Rachel Heilmann, who's a pharmacist in the rare space, who we love and respect, to support these patients, to begin the conversation with insurance, to secure continuation of drug so less Syngapians are out there seizing. And I just want to publicly thank all the people I just mentioned, SLC, Amber Freed, Rachel Freeman, all the people at SLC and STX. But also these 6 or 7 or however many patients are still in the trial, for taking on the trial, for learning about this, for showing us that Ravicti helps our kids, and for continuing to fight for your loved ones. And we're going to help you every step of the way. But guys, this is why SRF does what we do, right? So we can get better drugs for our kids. Let's keep these kids on Ravicti for as long as we can until we get better drugs like CAMP4, right? Because phase 1-2, if phase 1-2 is in a year, then it'll be phase 3. I mean, it's not going to be a marketed drug for a few years. We still need to work on repurposing. Now, 2 thoughts on repurposing. 1, big thank you to the families and to all our friends working on this. 2, you're like, what's Ravicti? How do I get a hold of it? It's incredibly expensive. If your kid has severe seizures and no meds seem to be working, there is a playbook. We can share it with you. You can begin the fight with insurance, and you can try if your clinician will write the script. But if you can hang on for like 6 more months, I fully expect these patients to secure insurance approvals by then, and Dr. Greenspan to share and hopefully publish, if not only a preprint, the data on butyrate. And once we have something in the publication, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to fight that fight. So hang in there. If you want to try something, I will point you to, there's a supplement out there called Sunbutyrate. Links in the show notes. And so it's not as powerful as Ravicti. It's not as powerful as Ravicti. But it is a GI supplement. It's a GI supplement. We should probably all be using it. Nothing is stopping you from trying it and seeing if it helps your kids, right? The gut-brain axis thing. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, but Ravicti making a lot of progress. There is some published work about, hey, Ravicti is a butyrate. There's other forms of butyrate out there. Those could help. I'm pointing you to some butyrate, which some patients have had luck with. Again, the good news is SRF is fiercely transparent, and I'm always wanting to tell you guys as much as possible. Bad news is a lot of this work takes months, if not years, and the data and the answer is not in yet. But I'm just sharing with you guys what I know. PubMed. Let's just talk about PubMed for a hot second, even though we're way over time. PubMed has 328 publications on SYNGAP. That's 20 year to date. We are in week 21 of the year 2025. So for the first time, we have less publications than we have weeks. So as I predicted, the slowdown has begun. With all these NIH cuts and this assault on science that the current regime is imposing, we are seeing a slowdown of publication. And this is heartbreaking because for us to have more papers this year than we had last year, we would have to have at least one a week. We can still turn this around, but I'm just observing the trend. I will also point out that one of these late publications comes from a group in Brazil who I was not on my radar. And they did a great study on sleep, right? So as we're learning about SYNGAP and we're talking about clinical trials, one of the things we really want to measure is sleep. And this is a great study out of Brazil talking about sleep. Very exciting. Money. All of this takes money. Please do a fundraiser for SYNGAP1. I want to point out that Aaron Harding and Heather Mestemaker have already formed a team for the $1 Million Bike Ride 2025. I think they've already brought in over $10,000. By the way, happy birthday, Aaron. Aaron's like the godfather of SRF. He just turned older. And he's still out there racing and running and fighting for SYNGAP. So we can't thank him enough. That fundraiser is ongoing. Links in the show notes. I want to celebrate Sprint for SYNGAP one last time. We're over $221,000. 160 of that came from the Tavillas. So huge respect to the Tavilla family for this record-setting fundraise. 221 is pretty great for the rest of us. A lot of families did a lot of good work there. You know who you are, and I just want to call out a couple of them because there were a few that hit big numbers. And just thank everybody for what you've done for Sprint for SYNGAP. Phoebe's Fight brought in $23,000. Team Daisy, $12,000. Team Kaya, $7,000. Team Louie, $7,000. Team Kira, $3,000. Laps for Lila, $2,000. Ethan, Grayson, Chase, all around $1,000. Thank you so much, you guys. All these dollars add up and allow us to fund more science, which will give us more good news in the future. It has never been more important than now with the current cuts. I also want to shout out a sibling. So Porter Jones, along with his friends William, Patrick, and Judson, raised over $10,000 selling donuts. Now, of course, we got to pay for the donuts. But some people, when they're buying donuts for charity and you're like, hey, do you want to buy some Krispy Kreme donuts for whatever? And profits go to SYNGAP Research Fund. They say, sure, what's SYNGAP Research Fund? They're like, oh, here, take an extra $50, take an extra $20, whatever. So we sold $10,000 in donut sales, and we made about $8,000 off of that. Pretty amazing due to donations. This is a fundraiser anyone can do. This is a national thing. So if you got a Krispy Kreme next to you, you can do a Krispy Kreme fundraiser. People can buy gift cards if they live far away. Just sharing with you. Pretty exciting stuff. And thank you to Porter Jones for, as a sibling, raising money for SRF. Such an incredible family. Porter, of course, is Suzanne Jones' son. Suzanne Jones is the chair of our board, and that family has done a lot for the cause. Last but not least, I want to shout out a couple of profiles. Speaking of siblings, Vicky Arteaga, our tireless leader of Fondo SYNGAP, who, by the way, spent this week in Mexico. I'm gonna give you this Vicky post in Mexico. She at the Pediatric Neurology Conference in Mexico talking about SYNGAP1, helping doctors understand what SYNGAP1 is, making sure we have more diagnoses. Vicky's just tireless. And in addition to doing that, somehow she had time to write about her beautiful daughters, Violeta and Lourdes, who are sisters to Amelia, who is our famous Fondo SYNGAP patient. And it's a beautiful profile. Check it out on our SYNGAP siblings profile. If you have a SYNGAP sibling, please consider writing about them and celebrating them on this page. We need all the siblings out there to realize they're not alone. It is not easy to have a SYNGAPian as a sibling. If they're your big brother or sister, you've got to accept that this big brother or sister who you naturally idolize is different and occasionally unpleasant. And if they're your little one, you have to deal with the heartbreak of knowing that you need to help work extra hard to take care of them. So it's a big deal, these siblings. And then I also want to give a shout out to Ashley and Justin Albrecht, who shared Harper Albrecht's Warrior profile, Warrior number 215. Doing great work, guys. Check that out on the Warrior page. So this has been an extra long SYNGAP 10. 45 minutes is probably a record for me. But hey, it is what it is. We had a lot of content today, and now my chest is clear for the board meeting, and I can get in there for the next round. But thank you to everybody who made this possible. And if you're like, wow, this is exciting, I want to help, raise money. Raise money. There is so much work ahead of us, guys. Raise money, take part in natural history studies, come to the conference. Come to the conference this year. It's going to be a big one. And hopefully we'll be hearing great news from CAMP4 and others. All right. Take care of yourselves.